My arms were stretched high above me. I couldn't speak, I couldn't, only hear their footsteps, 2 sets, closing, and I was breathless, trapped, and I had no idea what they'd do next, but I wanted them. Before we jump in this, one came out a little faster than it was supposed to, but I couldn't wait to subscribe, like, share. It let me know if it still hit the mark for you. Let's begin. I'd already said yes. There was no turning back. The sheets were clean. The lights were low. Candles flickered across the room, casting soft shadows on every detail I'd arranged, meticulously, obsessively. I kept fixing things that didn't need fixing. Wiping, straightening, adjusting, just to keep my hands busy. I caught myself in the mirror. The black lace fit perfectly, soft against skin I hadn't dared to show in far too long. I turned slightly, checking the back, then the front. I wasn't dressed to hide. That was the point. My heart was pounding, not from fear, but something else. Nervousness tangled with longing, sharp and deep in my chest. I had no idea what to expect. Only what I had asked for. I touched my collarbone, breathing slowly. Every part of me felt awake. Alive. Sensitive. The air, cool on my skin, only made it worse, or better. I sat for a moment. Then stood again. The door was still locked. Still quiet. But they were coming. That had been the agreement. I thought about backing out. Texting them to stop. But I didn't. Because underneath all the nerves, I wanted this. All of it. Everything I'd never tried. Everything I never allowed myself to want. Tonight was about surrender. No pretending. No control. Then, 3 slow knocks. It was time. They stood at the door. Silent. The taller one stepped forward first. Slow. Intentional. He didn't ask if I was ready. He didn't need to. Something about him, quiet, calm, commanding, left no room for doubt. He stopped inches from me. I could smell leather on his jacket. Then, without a word, he covered my eyes. Darkness. Silence. My breath changed. The door clicked shut. And then, nothing. Only my heartbeat, loud and wild in my chest. I was already shaking, and he hadn't even touched me. Then, he did. His hand brushed my waist, then settled there, firm, grounding. I stayed still. Tense. But I didn't pull away. I didn't want to. His fingers moved lower, adjusting the angle of my hips. Like I wasn't in charge of myself anymore. And I let him. Each small shift sent a jolt through me. When he nudged my knees apart, I obeyed. The cover over my eyes made everything louder, sharper. His breath. His footsteps. The sound of fabric. Then, his chest touched my back. His hands gripped my hips. Steady. Controlling. He guided me into his rhythm without asking, without hesitation. Exactly what I had wanted. Exactly what I had asked for. I parted my lips without thinking. A sound escaped, small, needy. My hands hovered in the air, unsure. I'd never felt this exposed. This vulnerable. This alive. He was slow, but not gentle. He handled me like something to be claimed, learned, and shaped. His rhythm, steady, relentless, taught my body how to listen. Each second pulled me further in. I tried to stay composed, to hold myself together. But I couldn't. My breath fractured. My legs shook. I was spiraling, fast, hard, deeper than I'd ever gone. He held me tighter, making sure I couldn't pull away. Not that I wanted to. I didn't need to see him. I felt everything. His control stripped away thought. Only sensation remained. The pressure built. My mind blurred. And I moaned, louder this time. I didn't care who heard. And then, I unraveled. It came sharp, sudden, heat and release crashing through me. My body clenched. My breath shattered. I gasped. When my knees began to give out, he caught me. Held me through it. Firm. Silent. Steady. Only when I stopped trembling did he step away. I stayed there. Unsteady. Shaking. Completely undone. And I wasn't ready for it to end. Not yet. The second man stepped forward. Slower. Heavier. Still silent. But sure. Like we both knew what would happen next. I sensed him before I felt him, his presence thicker, more commanding. His hands found my wrists and raised them high above my head. Tight. Certain. I didn't resist. A soft band slid between my lips, tying behind my head. Now, I couldn't see. Couldn't speak. Could barely breathe. He said nothing. His hands moved to my thighs, shifting my stance, stepping in. I staggered slightly. The tension above held me. So did he. His fingers pressed into my skin, testing, measuring, claiming. No build-up. No pause. Just pressure and certainty. He adjusted my hips, then set the rhythm. His rhythm. Every shift made me gasp behind the band. The sound was swallowed, but the sensation wasn't. He moved with purpose, steady and forceful. My knees weakened, but I didn't fall. His grip wouldn't let me. I moaned into the silence. Overwhelmed. Exposed. Flushed. It was too much. And still. I wanted more. The pressure built fast. Too fast. My body shook where I stood. I shattered against him. Breathless. Weightless. Lost. He held me through the waves, unmoving, patient, until it passed. Then he stepped away. The room fell quiet again. But I didn't fall. I couldn't. I stayed there, trembling, breathless, undone.
I was still blindfolded, still gagged, still held high above myself. I hadn't come down, not even close. And I felt it again, a shift in the air. Another presence. A new hand gripped my waist. Firm. Certain. I tensed. It didn't matter. I couldn't move. One man had never left. Now I was caught between them. Lifted. Held. Open. They moved me like I weighed nothing. My legs spread wider. My back arched. The support above creaked. One stood behind me. Close. Heavy. I knew what was coming. And I didn't resist. What followed was pure motion. Unrelenting. Overlapping. Perfect. Hands everywhere. Gripping. Guiding. Bracing. Rhythms collided. Bodies pressed in. And I disappeared between them. There was no space to think. Only sensation. My body lit up, burning, aching, lost. Over and over, the waves came. First fast. Then slow. Then something else, deeper, harder, brighter than all the rest. And still, they didn't stop. Not until I came apart completely. No sound. No breath. Just trembling. They held me as I fell apart again and again. And only when I had nothing left, no thoughts, no strength, did they finally let go. The room was still. Their hands slipped away. But I didn't move. Couldn't. Still blindfolded. Still gagged. Still shaking. Still not finished. The silence wrapped around me like smoke. I was floating and falling at the same time. Still blindfolded. Still gagged. My skin burned with every memory of their hands. Of how they moved me. Took me. Held me like I was theirs. I tried to breathe slowly. I couldn't. Every breath was shallow, trembling. My legs wouldn't stop shaking. My arms ached from being stretched so long. But I didn't want it to end. Not yet. The air shifted again. I felt it like a touch, warm, thick, electric. New footsteps. Soft, bare, different. Another? I wasn't sure if it was real or if my mind had broken open, but I knew the sound. I felt the presence. Not like the first two. This one was quieter, slower. Like water before it boils. I froze, body tense. But I didn't resist. I couldn't. Everything that held me in place stayed the same. And yet I was more open than ever. A hand touched my ankle. Gentle. Almost reverent. It moved slowly upward over my calf. My thigh. Pausing at the place where every nerve screamed. I gasped. Or tried to. The sound muffled behind the cloth in my mouth. The hand moved higher. So slow. So patient. Like they weren't there to take. Like they were there to feel. Their mouth pressed against my neck. Warm breath. Soft lips. No words. But my whole body responded. Arching into the heat. Reaching for what I couldn't see. They whispered against my ear. Not loud enough to understand. Just the sound. Just enough to melt me more. I was dripping inside. Every part of me raw and open. No thoughts. Only need. They didn't rush. They didn't take over like the others had. They explored. Tasted. Moved with slow reverence. Like I was sacred. And I felt it. Like I was. Tears slipped from under the blindfold. Not from pain. Not from fear. From something deeper. From being so completely seen. Even while unseen. The hand circled around my waist. Pressing into my lower back. A silent guide. And I followed. Leaned into them. They kissed my shoulder. Then my spine. Then lower. And again, lower. I trembled. I broke open in a new way. Not sharp like before. But slow. Surrender wrapped in tenderness. The others were still there. I could feel them watching. Their stillness was thick with restraint. With hunger. With something like awe. And I understood it. This new one wasn't here to claim. They were here to worship. Hands cradled my hips like I was fragile. They guided me down. Gently. Knees on soft sheets now. Arms still above. Still aching. But I didn't care. My body pulsed. Not just from touch. But from how they made me feel. Worthy. Desired. Beautiful. The first two had shown me power. Control. Loss of self. This one? They gave me back to myself. I moaned. Deep. Shaking. Relief and pleasure crashing together. The rhythm built again. But different now. No force. No pressure. Just a rising tide of emotion so big. It carried everything with it. My breath broke in sobs. Not from pain. From release. A wave rushed through me again. Not like before. This one brought peace. A quiet ache that lingered. And a fullness that made my chest feel too small. I collapsed. Finally, silently, into the hands that held me. They undid the gag. Slipped it away like silk. I gasped for air. And it came like wind in the desert. Cool. Real. Healing. The blindfold was next. And when it fell away, the room was golden with candlelight. 3 faces. 3 different energies. All watching me. Not with hunger. With something else. Wonder. Respect. Stillness. I met their eyes one by one. No one spoke. No one had to. Because something had changed. Not just in the room. In me. I wasn't the same woman who stood waiting hours ago. Nervous, trembling, adjusting pillows and mirrors. She was gone. In her place was someone reborn. Touched. Undone. And deeply, beautifully known. And I still wasn't finished. I lay there. Still. Quiet. My arms were free now. But I didn't move. My body was too soft. Too heavy. Too full of everything. Hands had shaped me tonight. Not just on the outside. But deep inside. Where the feelings live. I could still feel them. All 3. One brought fire. The second, storm. The last, light. They had touched every part of me. Skin, breath, soul. Touched me in ways no one had ever dared. And I had let them. Not because I had to. Because I wanted to. Because I needed to. I needed to be broken open. I needed to fall apart in someone else's hands. And I did. They had undressed me with more than fingers. They had peeled back layers of fear, shame, hesitation. They had touched my mouth, my throat, my breasts. But it was never just about the body. It was more. So much more. When one of them kissed between my thighs, it wasn't rough. It wasn't rushed. It was worship. Tongue slow, lips warm, each breath like a prayer against me. When the other held me from behind, pressing against me, inside me, it wasn't just for his pleasure. It was for mine too. He matched my rhythm. He listened to the way my body cried for more. And the third, he was the quietest, but his touch shook me the most. He entered me with silence. No words, just eyes locked on mine, as if to say, I see you. I feel everything you are. When they moved together, taking turns, sharing me, not as an object, but as a sacred thing. I cried, not from pain, from being so deeply held. They didn't rush. They watched how I moved. They kissed my spine, my shoulder blades, the backs of my knees. They took their time, learned every inch of me, like a language. And when I shattered, when my body shook and twisted, when I gasped into the pillows, they didn't stop. They held me through it, rocked me, kissed my tears, whispered things I couldn't understand, but felt in my bones. I came again, and again, and again, until I didn't know where I ended. And they began. And now, here I was, alone in the golden room, the candles still flickering, the sheets still warm, the scent of them still on my skin. I touched my lips. They were swollen. I touched between my thighs. Still wet. Still aching. But it wasn't just lust. It was longing. For more than touch. For meaning. Because something inside me had opened. Something that wouldn't close again. I stood up slowly, wrapping a blanket around myself. My legs were weak. My chest full. I saw myself in the mirror. Hair wild, skin glowing, eyes wide and soft. I didn't look ruined. I looked reborn. There was a note on the table. No names, no numbers, just a line written in soft ink. You were more than beautiful. You were brave. I cried again. This time not from sorrow, from truth, because I had given myself every part. And they hadn't broken me. They had held me. They had made me feel like a woman who didn't need to hide. And I promised myself this night would not become a secret. It would live in me, soft and shining, forever. Before we dive in, make sure to like this video and hit the subscribe if you haven't already. And if this is your first time here, welcome. You picked a wild one to start with. Let's get into it. I stayed still for a long time. My arms were still high above me, my legs shaking. My skin was warm, almost too warm, and every breath I took felt like fire and air mixed together. I wasn't ready to move. I wasn't ready to speak. My mind was quiet, but my body remembered everything, every touch, every breath, every moment I had given away. And I had given it all. I didn't regret it. Not even a little. I had never felt so alive, so real, so broken open in the best way. They had taken control, and I had let them. It wasn't just about desire. It was about something deeper, something that touched the places I never showed anyone. Places I had locked away for years. And now, they were wide open. Slowly, one of them came back. I couldn't see which. I only felt his hand. Gentle now. Careful. He touched my wrist, and then the soft band around my eyes slipped away. Light returned, soft and dim, and I blinked against it. He didn't say anything, just looked at me, like I was something fragile and strong all at once. Then the other man came forward, and together they undid the tie holding my arms. They didn't rush. Their hands moved like they remembered every inch of me already, and still wanted more. I let my arms fall. I didn't have the strength to hold them up anymore. But before I could sink, they caught me, one on each side. Warm hands, strong arms, solid chests. I was weightless in their hold. They carried me to the bed. The sheets I had smoothed and straightened earlier now welcomed me like a soft sigh. They laid me down carefully, like I mattered. Like I wasn't just something they had used. I closed my eyes. I expected them to leave then. I thought maybe it was over. But it wasn't. Not yet. One of them climbed in beside me, his arms sliding around my waist. The other stayed at the edge, his hand brushing my hair back from my forehead. Their touches were different now, slower, softer, more about comfort than control. I didn't know how to speak. I didn't know how to say what I felt. But they seemed to know. And so we stayed like that, silent, wrapped in warmth, tangled in breath and skin. Their bodies close to mine, their presence still thick in the air. I had given myself to them, fully. And now I was being held, not just touched, but kept. I wasn't alone anymore. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't want to be. Time moved slowly after that. I lay there between them, their bodies warm and close. My breath came in soft waves now, not rushed, not wild, just steady. They hadn't left. They didn't disappear after they had taken me to that edge. They stayed. That meant something. It meant everything. One of them brushed his lips gently against my shoulder. Not in hunger, but in care. The kiss stayed there, lingering, quiet. The other traced his fingers across my stomach, slow and delicate, like I was something sacred. I opened my eyes and looked at them, one on each side of me. Their eyes held so much. Heat. Yes. But more than that, something deeper. Something like understanding. I reached out. My hand found the taller man's face, and I touched his jaw, feeling the warmth of his skin. He leaned into my palm like he'd been waiting for it. The other one kissed my neck, and I let out a small breath. Not because of surprise, because of safety. They weren't rushing. This time, it was different. Their hands roamed my body slowly. No commands. No force. Just touch, measured, tender, meant to make me feel seen, not just wanted. My body responded, even now, after all we had already shared. The need was still there, but quieter, warmer. Like a fire glowing, not burning. One of them leaned in and kissed me. Softly, with lips that moved like a promise. I kissed him back. It wasn't wild. It wasn't frantic. It was slow. Full of feeling. Full of something that made my chest ache in the best way. His tongue touched mine, not to take, but to meet. And I gave, because I wanted to. The other one moved closer behind me. His hand slid over my waist, down my hip, then up again. He held me there, between them. I could feel how much they wanted me, but they waited for me to lead. So I did. I guided one of their hands between my thighs, showing him how to touch me, how to love me in the way I needed now. His fingers moved gently, exploring the softness of me, learning what made my breath catch, what made my eyes close. I let my legs fall open, inviting him deeper. He found the places that still burned, that still ached for more. I moaned, soft, full of feeling, and pressed myself closer to him. The other man kissed along my neck, down my chest, his hands mapping every inch of me like he wanted to memorize it. They weren't rough. They weren't fast. They were here, fully, with me. Inside this moment, my body opened again, slowly, sweetly. This time it wasn't about control or surrender. It was about connection, trust, emotion. Their hands and mouths moved with purpose, but also patience. My hips began to rock gently, meeting each motion, each soft thrust of fingers and mouths and hips, with a rhythm that came from deep inside me. They filled me with warmth, not just their touch, but their care. Their presence. I was held completely, wrapped in pleasure and peace at the same time. The wave built again. Slower this time. It took its time rising through me, lighting up my skin, The room was quiet now. Only the sound of our breathing filled the space, slow, steady, peaceful. The night had wrapped itself around us like a warm blanket. I didn't want to move. I didn't need to. I was safe, right here between them. They hadn't left. They hadn't turned away after all the heat and need. No, they stayed. One of them held my hand. The other kissed my forehead softly, like I was something he wanted to keep. I felt full. Not just in my body, but in my heart. For the first time in a long time, I felt enough. The taller one, his chest rising and falling gently, whispered against my ear, "You okay?" I nodded. "Yes," I whispered. "Better than okay." He smiled. It was soft, almost shy. "Good," he said. "We didn't want to hurt you." "You didn't," I said. "You held me. You touched me like I mattered." The other one leaned in closer. His hand brushed the hair from my face. "You do matter," he said. "We saw it the moment we met you." Tears pricked the corners of my eyes, but I didn't look away. I let them see me, just me, without fear, without shame. I had given them my body, but now they were holding something more. Something deeper. They made space for me to feel everything. Not just desire, but the ache behind it. The loneliness. The longing. And now, the healing. One of them reached under the covers, pulling me closer. Our legs tangled again, but not in heat. In comfort. His fingers drew lazy lines along my arm, down my back. I shivered, but not from cold. "I didn't think I could feel this way again," I said. They didn't rush to speak. They just looked at me, quiet and open. "It's okay," the quieter one said. "Sometimes the body remembers before the heart does. But we're not going anywhere." I let those words settle in me like soft rain after a long dry season. We stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in each other, saying little but feeling everything. And when sleep finally came, it wasn't lonely. It was warm. It was safe. It was home. The light was soft when I opened my eyes. It poured in through the curtains like a quiet whisper, brushing across the room with gentle hands. I didn't move at first. I just stayed still, feeling the warmth of the sheets, the steady rhythm of breath beside me. One of them was still there, lying close, his arm draped over my waist. The other had gotten up already. I could hear quiet sounds from the kitchen. A cup set down, water running, the hum of life returning slowly after the storm of the night. But it didn't feel empty. I turned my head just slightly and looked at him, the one beside me. His eyes were closed, his features soft in sleep. He looked peaceful, and for a moment, I forgot everything else. The fear, the doubt, the weight I'd carried for so long. This moment was still, and I was still here. I ran my fingers lightly along the edge of the blanket, letting myself breathe in the truth of it all. I had let go. I had surrendered completely, and they hadn't broken me. They had held me, cared for me, seen me. Tears came quietly, not from sadness, but from something deeper. Relief, maybe, or gratitude. I didn't wipe them away. I let them fall. The one beside me stirred. He blinked slowly, then reached for me. "Hey," he said, voice rough from sleep. "You okay?" I nodded, pressing closer. "I am," I whispered. "I really am." He wrapped both arms around me then, pulling me in. "You don't have to say anything else," he said. "Just stay here. Just breathe." And I did. A few minutes later, the other one returned. He held a tray, coffee, toast, some fruit. "Didn't know what you'd want," he said, smiling. So I brought a little of everything. My heart swelled, not because of the food, but because of the care, the thought, the quiet way he looked at me like I mattered still. Not just last night, but now. In the morning, in the light. They sat on either side of me, and we ate together, slow, unhurried. The silence between us wasn't heavy. It was soft, easy. After everything, I had expected to feel empty, used, maybe even ashamed. But I didn't. I felt new, like something broken had started to heal, not all at once, but enough to take the first step forward. They didn't ask what came next. They didn't push or pull. They just stayed close, present, patient. And I knew, in the quiet between their hands and mine, this wasn't the end. It was the beginning. Now answer me, if you were in that room, could you keep up with me on your own? Or would you have needed backup? To tell me in the comments, I will be reading. And if you haven't already hit like, subscribe, can tap the notification bell so you never miss what comes next. Thanks for being here and making this channel possible.